Okay, hey everyone. We got a full room, so we might as well start, right? Okay, cool, awesome. My name is Kyle Golding. I am going to be leading this discussion today. This is not 45 minutes of me talking at you. This is 45 minutes of us talking together. And in fact, I actually moved some slides up to the front that are a little bit more challenging to use as the audience because I want feedback, I want questions. Let's have a dialogue, okay? So again, if you sit there for the whole 45 minutes and just listen to me ramble, it's not worth much, okay? You guys ready for that?
Ready.
Yes. It's getting, I know it's the end of the day. Let's have some energy, right? Let's have some fun with this, okay? So my name is Kyle Golding. I'm the CEO and Chief Strategic Idealist for the Golding Group. I am a 18-year marketing veteran. Before that, I was an 18-year music industry veteran. I've owned a business of some sort for over 30 years. I'm a professional communicator by day. I am an artist, board member, and art supporter by night and weekend. And today I'm going to challenge your ideas of what communication is for your arts organizations. I'm going to very intentionally push you out of your comfort zone. Are you ready to do that?
Yes.
Okay. This is Focused Communications for Arts Organizations. Specifically today, like I said, I'm going to push you out of your comfort zone and challenge you to do very sophisticated, high-end marketing for your arts communications organizations. There is no excuse of, but we don't have any time or money, okay? These are ideas and things that you can incorporate 1% of it or 100% of it. But I'm going to push you out of your comfort zone. I'm not going to let you say, because we've always done it that way, okay? By the end of this, you're all going to go back to organizations, and every time someone says, because that's how we've always done it, you're going to go, We're challenging that. So, first idea, of course, is art is for everyone, but communication is focused. Even more so in 2018 than ever before, we have the opportunity to focus our communication for effectiveness, efficiency, and to achieve things with different audiences for different reasons that don't cross-affect each other. So, I'm going to start right off by hurting your feelings. You're not trying hard enough. I'm very willing to bet that everyone in here who manages communications for an arts organization is doing a little bit. And I'm pretty sure that when we get into the discussion today about all the things you could be doing and all the things that the big corporate people that I work with do, you're going to say, that's too much. Somewhere between you're not doing enough and that's way too much is the answer. You don't have to be doing everything I talk about today tomorrow, but you can't be doing tomorrow what you're doing today, which is what you were doing yesterday and last week. Feel me? Okay. You're not trying hard enough if all of your marketing, communication, advertising, and interactions with any audience whatsoever is not revolved around all of these things. Audience development, audience segmentation, customization, use of a CRM, systematic communication, long-term development, and two-way conversation. We're going to dive deep into all of these right now, okay? Also, in case you haven't figured out, this stuff, like this is what I do. I get super excited about it. I get going really fast. If I try to skip ahead, if I start talking about CRM and we haven't covered these, again, be like, hey, dude, hold on. You didn't explain that well enough. And I'll slow down and explain it, okay? Because I get excited about this. And I also assume you know as much as I do. So we're going to go deep into each one of these levels here. So when we talk about audience development, every arts organization lives and dies on their audience, on the people that pay attention to them, that participate in events, that give them money or volunteerism or support of any sort. Every piece of communication we do, from the simplest, answering the phone in the office, through the most sophisticated advertising and marketing campaigns, needs to be developing audiences. It needs to be attracting the audience most likely to be interested in your arts organization, what you represent and what you do. and other people who might be interested in as well. Because we're focused, we're always looking at our core of who most likely supports our arts organization. And later we'll talk about how we develop new audiences off of that as well. So audience development should always be first and foremost in all of your communication efforts. Audience segmentation is a subset of audience development. Art is for everyone. Let's segment our audience. That doesn't make sense, right? But when you talk about communicating, when you are delivering messages, information, motivation, call to action, etc., to different people in different ways, through different channels for different reasons, that's audience segmentation. When you do it right, they don't know they're being segmented. When you do it wrong, they do know. When you do it right and you segment your audience, and we'll get into the sophistication piece of this later, you're more effective in each segment than trying to communicate to everyone as a whole. Communication that is for everyone appeals to no one. So without audience segmentation, you're going to give out mass messages that aren't effective for anyone to say, they're talking to me. Customization of your marketing. You cannot take a basic idea of what your organization is, put down the mission statement, the title of your organization, put one photo out, and put it out in the world and call it good. You must customize all of your messaging to all of your different audience segments in order to be effective for those segments. Mass marketing of a basic, simple idea at the very base level, which is called brand marketing, is okay for brand awareness, but it doesn't do anything. Every piece of communication, advertising, public relations, interpersonal communications, emails, etc., need to be customized to the audience segment that you're sending it to. Otherwise, you're hoping it works, and hope is not a strategy. How many of you here use a CRM, a customer relationship management software? 3, 4, less than 5? I'm sad. It's customer relationship management software. And it's traditionally been used in the past. It was originally developed for salespeople. Salespeople would put in all of their prospects and they would make their initial sales calls, right? Hey, I'm Rick from the local thing trying to sell the local thing. Are you interested? The person would say no, and they would write down, called them this date, pitched them the thing. And then that CRM, the software, would remind them every 30 or 90 days to call that person back or to do another action in the sales process. That's how CRMs were originally developed. But now CRMs are very, very sophisticated marketing tools, communication tools for professionals in order for you to manage the relationships you have with all of the people you need to communicate with, which are artists, supporters, volunteers, donors, stakeholders, etc. Anyone that you need to have a relationship with, you managed. The R in CRM is relationship. You manage through a CRM software. You can find CRM software that is extremely complicated and extremely robust and almost does the job for you. It's very expensive. We don't want to talk about very expensive. All the way down to some plugins you can add to your iPhone calendar for reminders and other things that you can do to keep you on track with a relationship building of the person you're trying to communicate to. Somewhere in between that mix, each organization needs to find a system that works for them so that you keep your communication in a central place, who you're calling, who you're emailing, who you're sending direct mail to, who you're personally inviting to events, who attended events, who volunteered at different ventures in the year, etc. You need that information in a central place so that our leadership can see that and our communication team can be looking at that on a regular basis. Then you need to set yourself a series of reminders that 1 or 2 or 3 bits of communication do not get the job done. And the more you need to motivate them to do something, the more communication you need. So, to stay a member, you might need 1 or 2 pieces of communication. It could be a call or an email with, your membership is coming up on this date. And if we have a CRM that lets us know every 30 days whose renewals are coming up, we can communicate with them. We can do a good job of renewing memberships. Courting a $50,000 donor is a different story whatsoever, right? So understanding who called, whether it was the executive director, a board member, or a staff member, if that person that you're courting for that large check came to an event or not, if they were in the news, if they had a birthday, other bits of information that the people managing the relationship process can look at quickly and say, we haven't talked to them in a while, and we're going to ask them for $50,000. We need to engage our relationship. That's what CRMs do to allow you to manage the process. So again, it can be very complex. Something like Salesforce or other CRMs are very expensive, but honestly, they kind of do the whole thing for you. Or something very simple as adding plugins for reminders and repeat reminders on your calendar apps that are already on your computers and phones. You guys do at least one of those things. And hopefully you'll find some sort of entry-level CRM that isn't as expensive, easier for you to use, that you can adapt to what you need. Trying to do it manually is what humans err. And so when you try to do it manually as a human, it's not going to work, and you're going to look up and go, I didn't call the 50,000 donor for 6 months. Now I'm set back 6 months. Okay? Systematic communication. Too many people think about promoting your organization, such as running an ad campaign or doing public relations as your events or other specific things come up, as here's how we always do it, right? January 1, we send out the email the first of the month. We always run a campaign in the spring. We do our fundraising letters after that, etc., right? That's the very basic communication model. But you have to do those things along with supplementing communication to each of your audience segments in the way they want to be communicated to, which we'll get into later, to add to or increase the system you have in place to consistently be communicating to the people that support you. Long-term development. This is something that almost all nonprofit organizations fail at, and unfortunately arts organizations are their fair share of failures here too. You know who your core audience is. You know who your core supporters are. You know the people that support you day in and day out. They will eventually die. Or they will find other reasons to spend their money or their time or their focus elsewhere. You need to always be developing new audience. You need to always be continuing to keep the relationship that you have with the audience you have now. You can't take it for granted, because you wouldn't like it if someone did that to you. And you always have to be expanding your audience. Expanding and attracting new audiences is a long-term proposition. It takes a lot of work. It does not happen overnight. It does not happen in a year. It does not happen in 5 years. But if you have not been cultivating new audiences for the last 5 years, what happens when a big chunk of your audience, your core audience this year goes away? You're 5 years behind. So you have to start today long-term developing people who pay attention to your organization for various reasons so they can become supporters. If you don't start today, they won't be here tomorrow. And finally, all marketing is two-way conversation. Marketing is the work before you get into advertising, public relations, and actual communication. Advertising is the outward expression of marketing. Marketing is research and compiling information about you, about your audience, about your competition, about your offering, in order to develop a message that can be conveyed via advertising and other advertising channels. When your advertising, your public relations, your promotions, your events work, that informs you that what you're doing is good, you should keep doing it. When they fail, that informs you there are things you need to change, fix, or do differently, and you need to listen to that and bring that information back in. That's the two-way conversation, is that failures in your communication, in your events, and other things that have expectations inform you that something needs to be changed, fixed, or edited. And that information won't help if you don't apply that back to your marketing process. So simply saying, people didn't like that, or no one showed up for that, is not enough. You have to use your analytical skills to understand what you learned from that so that you don't make that mistake again, or you don't let other things make small moves towards the things that fail. Marketing is a two-way conversation. You must pay attention to your audience, what they like, what they don't like, what they respond to, what they don't respond to. And you can't always look at failures as complete failures. Because it's very possible you had the right event at the right time for the right price. You just didn't call it the right thing. You didn't communicate it via the right channels, or you didn't connect with the right audiences. So simply because we had low ticket sales, or we didn't have enough interest in this event, doesn't mean the whole thing has to be scrapped. There are things that you can find from it that allow you to adjust your marketing moving forward. So what are the reasons we as arts organizations communicate? I'll give you a hint, there's 4. If anyone can name all 4 of these, I'll buy you dinner tonight. Anyone want to try? The reasons we communicate. Come on, Peter. Say one.
To gain audience.
That's sort of. Okay. Fundraising. Okay. You guys are down to the tactics. Educate. Educate and inform. Same thing.
Okay. Advocate. You don't want to split that one off?
These are the 3 the same things.
All right.
All right. You guys ready?
I got one. All right.
You think so?
You owe me a quarter of dinner.
Okay. I'll buy you a drink. I only have an hour, and I put 3 hours worth into this presentation. So, attention, motivation, conversion, champion. Okay. Are you ready for this explanation? It starts at the top, attention. If you do not have someone's attention, you cannot do the other 3 things. You must gain their attention. The factors that go into gaining attention are, number 1, understanding them. How do they want to be communicated to? How, when, what time, and what's the style or thing that catches them? Does it need to be overly creative? Does it need to be simple? Does it need to be something that shows up as a regular post or as a video or as a graphic? The things that each of your audience segments is attracted to allows you to understand if you're going to gain their attention or not. Back in the old days, back in the Mad Men days, right? They always wanted a flashy headline and a piece of art that someone would flipping the pages of a magazine. We go, oh, what's this? That's attention. Now, though, we're flipping through our phone, and we're talking on our phone, and we're looking here, and we're listening to 2 things at once, and we're driving all at the same time. So we have to find ways to get the attention of our audience, or else nothing else matters. Don't take for granted you're gaining their attention. Also, when your marketing doesn't work, it's most likely because you didn't get their attention. Motivation. Much like we're going to fundraise or gain exposure or gain and create education, etc., we are going to motivate people to do something. It could be go to our website. It could be read this piece of direct mail. It could be click here for more, or watch our video, or listen to our podcast. We are motivating to do what's a call to action. We want them to do something. There are times where you communicate that you don't motivate people to a call to action. That's called brand messaging. That's when you say, the Oklahoma Arts Conference is great. There's no call to action there. But it's okay that I heard that message. If I hear that message 10% of the time and 90% of the time here, it's great, great speakers, click here, get your tickets, here's how you go, here's how you get there. Now I'm motivating people to do something with my communication. Most likely your communication needs to motivate someone to do something. It can be as simple and direct as call this number and buy tickets, click this link, watch this video. It can be as complex as become a donor, volunteer for us, be involved, join in a membership.
So what about cooking based on awareness?
With
So I'm missing
Okay.
the word awareness there. So is that, you come under one of those four headings?
awareness comes from brand
Right.
communication, which should be a minority, huge minority of your communication.
But it's not a hook point?
It's a very small one. If we get all the way through the end, I'll talk about push marketing. Because it's the least effective way to hook at the end of the day. And does anyone here have an unlimited budget? Right, Pete, right? If I have to advertise your 5 events or the awareness of what we do, and I have $500, I got to push your 5 events, right? That's the unlucky reality of you end up running out of money and time. I hate to tell you that, but it is what it is. Okay. When I talk to my business clients, this is where everything breaks down. This is where everything stops. Now you're gonna go, wait, we're nonprofits. You're in business. You're getting stuff done, right? You need some money? Yeah. You need some ticket sales? You need attendance? You need memberships? Conversion is where this happens. I've got your attention. I motivated you to call, click, show up at the arts conference. Now what? How does my arts organization benefit? What happens next? I have to sell you the thing I told you to click to find out more about. If I told you to call, I want you to call so I can sell you tickets to my next ballet. If I want you to come to our event, I need to meet you, get your name, your email address, put you on my mailing list, maybe try to sign you up for a membership, or convince you to come back to the next event, right? Conversion is part of the conversation communication process. You have to grab their attention, you have to motivate them to do something, and when they say, oh, I think I will do that thing, you must now make it available for them, easy and actionable. Or else they go, well, I woulda. I mean, how many of you have ever met someone they go, I would have signed up for your thing, but I didn't know how? Right? Right? So that tells you the communication that you sent them that got their attention, that motivated them to read and engage, didn't have conversion attached to it. And that's where it failed. There's nothing worse than getting this far and losing them because you didn't put a button on the Facebook post, or you didn't put a direct link on the Twitter post or the Instagram or the email. Or you said call us and didn't put a phone number. And sure, they can look it up. They can Google it. Will they? People's attention spans. Okay? So, conversion is where the magic happens. Also, if I've sent out a direct mail piece that says call us for tickets to the show, and 100 people call and say, I'm calling for tickets to the show within the time span that I know my direct mail is in their home, can I then go back and say, I sold 100 tickets to the show at $10 a piece. That's $1,000 that came in off the direct mail piece. I can calculate ROI off that direct mail. Great. If I don't have a conversion piece and I get 20 calls, 20 emails, 20 people on Facebook, 10 people stop by the office, and another 25 people just went to the box office. I had 100 ticket sales. I don't know how I got them. I don't know if I should run that direct mail piece again, or if I should run the Facebook post again, or if I should double down on Twitter. So the conversion process allows you to track the conversion. By tracking the conversion, you do more of what works, less of what doesn't. Every single time until you really dial in what's most effective and has the highest ROI, return on investment. And finally, championing. The best thing that happens in the world for our arts organization are for people to become champions of our organization. For people to stand in a crowded room and say, the Oklahoma Arts Council is worth any type of support you give them. These people are A+, and what they're doing is important. That testimonial from a human being to another human being is the most powerful marketing tool that has been ever existed. Creating champions through consistent marketing, messaging, communication, and of course, delivering on the promises you make as an organization. That's key too, but that's out of my control. Allows people to then take pride in saying, I'm a part of this, I want other people to know this, I'm going to go out and tell people, I'm going to take them to events, I might even buy the tickets. Hey Peter, I got us tickets to that concert. You're going because I got tickets. When you develop brand champions, the most effective and least costly way of getting people to do things, motivating them for conversion. That should ultimately be a goal of all your communication. That puts your organization in a much better chance of surviving for 5, 10, 20, 50 years than temporary ticket sales. All right, you guys good with me so far? Putting a lot in here. You guys are keeping up really well, but no questions so far. Come on. Good? Don't be a cannibal. Back in the day, let's go back to Mad Men again. There's a term called cannibalization. A great example of cannibalization, one of my favorites is New Coke. Remember New Coke? Yeah. For those old enough, right? We got some young people. You might have read about New Coke. New Coke took people who used to drink Coke and moved them over to New Coke. Cannibalizing. They ate their audience. As opposed to people who drank Coke stay drinking Coke, and new people went, hey, what's this new Coke? And they come over here, and new people came to it. Developing new audiences without simply moving people who are already supporting you or already your audience from one category to another is non-cannibalization. You don't want to do that. You don't want to spend time, effort, money to communicate ideas to someone who says, I support this organization because of this. And then they say, no, I support it because of this. They're still a supporter, but you actually spent time and money to keep them in a different way. So when we talk about segmentation, the whole point of segmentation is to keep people for the reasons that are important to them and not creating new reasons that won't actually draw new people. Always need to be drawing new people. You must adapt and customize all of your messaging, your delivery channels, and your timing based on the audience you're trying to attract. And by I say based on, it starts with demographics, but it then goes to the information you know about the people who support and participate in your organization. Are men different than women? Yes. Are senior citizens different than millennials? Yes. Are there a group of people right in the middle that have similarities that overlap each other? Sure. Are people who are artists interested in your organization different than people who are members of the public who simply think art is a nice thing? Yes. Are elected officials, do they think differently? Are they motivated differently? Are people capable of writing a $10, $20, or $50,000 check? Do they generally think differently than someone who shows up to 3 of the 5 art events you put on a year and pays $10 at the door? Right? So now you have reasons to find and set up segmentations of audiences based on who they are, characteristics, and things you know about them, and things you know you're communicating to them in order to customize your communication. Now, your base communication may be, it's the membership drive. Okay? But you might take the it's a membership drive and the paragraph that comes with it about all the great things that come with membership and the reasons to support your organization and how easy it is, and click these buttons and go to the website and all of this information. All of that can be customized, focused, and different for every audience that you can identify. You don't want to send the $10,000 donor to the website to renew their membership with one easy click. Do you? No. You want to talk to them on the phone and thank them for their support and ask them to do it again and maybe ask them if they'd like to give more this year. But the $500 donor, the $50 donor, the base level member, do you need to spend the time and money to call them multiple times and email multiple times and in person ask you to renew your $10 membership? So audience segmentation allows you to be efficient and effective and change the approach, the message, the content, the delivery style, etc. to each audience. Because you can't communicate to a $50,000 donor the same way you communicate to a really good volunteer. So it sounds like, wait, I have to create 50 campaigns. No, you have 50 segments in your It's Membership Time campaign. And these 50 segments can range from, they're almost exactly the same content, but our millennials are a lot more focused on our social media delivery and maybe a lot more focused on the activity that happens around membership because millennials are motivated by experiences more than money or other things. And there are another 10 segments that are all very similar to themselves in as they are what we'll call our middle-age audience. But these people have more money, discretionary income, that they can give it at higher levels. They still want convenience, they're still web savvy, they're still seeing your social media marketing and communication. They understand it's out there, they're okay with it, but they're not highly motivated by it. And also, again, we talked about it's easy to say a $5 donor and a $50,000 donor are completely different, yes? Is it as easy to say a $3,000 and a $3,000 donor and a $4,000 donor are completely different? Not as clear, right? But there are some small distinctions and some things you can do, and some, thank you for giving $3,000, would you like to give $4,000 next year? Distinctions you can make in segments that allow you to adapt each one of those pieces of communication. So you don't have 50 unique campaigns you have to complete from scratch. You have 50 variations of this single campaign that are addressed to that audience for the reasons that motivate that audience. It also makes it customizable, it makes it trackable, and we can understand the conversion process because we are tracking through the process. This works for print, this works for direct mail, this works for email, this works for phone calls, text, any direct communication. Now, it does not work for magazine ads or newspaper ads. That's mass marketing. Or a basic Facebook post that you don't boost and set parameters on. That's information, that's basic information that's out there, and it's supporting everything else you're doing, but you're not going to be able to track it. when you do segmented customization, and this group is getting emails plus social media DMs, this group is getting emails plus a letter, this group is emails plus phone calls, these people are only getting emails, and these 5 top donors at the top are getting personal calls from the executive director with an offer to go to lunch and anything else that they want, right? You still, because you've segmented these things out, you've changed their approach, all of them to do what they wish most, you can then track the progress of each of them and go back to your CRM and set your timing for each of them. Do you have to return message and talk to millennials more than middle-aged people than senior citizens? Yes. Millennials are like this, right? Every 5 seconds, they moved on to something else. They're overstimulated by social media. They're looking at more things. The older the scale is, you're still using social media. This idea, too, that grandma doesn't use Facebook. Grandma uses a Facebook. Grandma doesn't use a Facebook the same way her grandchildren do. The last value in market segmentation is when you've adapted and changed the delivery method and the message and how often you do it, the repetition, etc., even the follow-up. Everyone in every one of those segments should feel like, oh, you're talking directly to me. That's fantastic. I mentioned earlier that marketing is a two-way conversation. In these communication processes, there are things that you will get good feedback on and bad feedback on. There'll be things that you had a lot of people open this email but not open this email. That feedback should allow you to continue to customize the process. In that process, when people say, things they say to you, I would have bought the tickets, but I don't go out on Tuesdays. And your prices are too high, or last time I went, this happened, or you guys don't sell beer at the arena, or whatever it is, right? Everyone gives you your feedback, right? If it just so happens that enough people tell us that a Saturday matinee would make them super happy and they would love to pay $25 for it, and we've already been looking at that option, and we've been thinking about it, and we've been talking to the venue, and now 50 people through the communication process have indicated that that's what they would do. And those 50 people are in 8 different segments. When we announce that Saturday matinee, every single one of them is going to go. That was me. That was totally me. I did that. They listened to me. They listened to us. I'm connected to this organization. They're going to feel better about the communication you're doing to them because it feels specific, it feels to them, and it's not mass marketing. People don't like to be mass marketed. Art is for everyone, but communication is focused. You have to be operating your arts organization like a world-class corporation when it comes to marketing communications. Why? Because you're competing against the attention that the world-class corporations are attracting. We have every type of social media channel and all types of information on the internet, which now means we don't know where the hell to look. Back in the Mad Men days again, right? 3 TV stations. It was pretty easy to figure out, run an ad on the 10 o'clock news, and I got at least 30% of this town locked down. We don't have that option anymore. Focused communication for arts organizations. I'm trying to check my time here. Ooh, we're running tight. To do specific things, like you brought up earlier, Peter. Event attendance, fundraising, advocacy, and brand messaging. Event attendance, of course, we want people to buy tickets. But are they buying tickets or are they free tickets? Some events are free, some events are paid. We also need to attract the attention of sponsors and the media. Those are 4 different types of communications simply for event attendance. Event attendance that's a paid ticket has to be communicated differently through different channels than events that are free. When you invite the media to attend your events, you can't send them the thing that says, everyone's invited, come on down. It has to say, Reporter A, we specifically invite you to come to our event and cover this because it does this for the community, and here's the newsworthy information you need because I am talking to a member of the media and not a member of the audience of the general public. I have to adapt my communication for media. I have to adapt my communication for sponsors or potential sponsors. Because again, no sponsor, whether they sponsored $50 or $500 or $5,000, wants to get a generic forum letter that says, we had a great event. And here's our list of sponsors. Your name is probably at the bottom. They do want a letter that says, Mr. Fowler, thank you very much for your $1,500. We used it for X, Y, and Z. That's effective communication based on the person or persons you're communicating to in a segment on the idea of event attendance. It's the same thing for fundraising, for advocacy. You can't fundraise the same way to a $5 donor as a $50,000 donor. You don't communicate to the artist that participate in your program or benefit from your program the same way you do the general public. And you can't try to solicit large value donations on email or Facebook or, God forbid, DMs. If you DM someone and ask them for $50,000, you're going to get blocked. And you're never getting anything from that person ever. So, think about who you're talking to, what you're trying to achieve, what they need to hear and understand in order to be motivated to convert the thing you want them to do in order to build your communication. Do not take generic communication and just spit it out across everyone and change, we want you to attend the event, to thanks for attending the event, to next time attend our event, to it's fundraising time again, to it's the membership drive, because it just falls flat, and even if you got all of that paid for by some generous donor, the effort isn't worth it. Let's skip a little bit because we're running out of time. Effective marketing messages. Focused, tailored, specific, and tested. Going back to our segments, going back to groups of people that we know who they are, we know why we're communicating to them, we know what we want them to do for us in a way that they want to do it. We've reached out to them to the channels that they prefer, but it still has to be a focused message and delivery. You cannot email them every Monday for the rest of their life. Focus. You also shouldn't email them on December 30th for, hey, aren't you going to sign up for this year? This year's done. And you should probably also consider that April 15th is tax day, so don't send them an email on that day either. Focus your communication. Tailored. The more tailored and specific your message is based on who it is you're communicating to and what you want to motivate them to do, the more likely it is to be effective and efficient. These things could be based on the audience segment you've identified, the demographics, what you know about the people within that group, and then what's happened in the past, positive and negative reactions to your marketing and advertising that tells you what works and what doesn't work. It has to be also specific. This goes back to that brand conversation, Peter, right? We have communication that says, your arts organization is doing great things for our community. Perfectly fine. It keeps you front of mind and it's stuff. That's a really great standing Facebook post, standing tweet, Your website always says that, right? Consistently. But you have to supplement it with very specific communication because, again, we're going to motivate them to do a thing that we can convert on. Has to be specific. Join us is not specific. Join us this month during the membership drive by doing this. Click, call, visit. Is specific. How many of you have gotten me letters to just say, hey, it'd be great if you helped us? They didn't tell you how. They didn't tell you what. They didn't tell, right? So there's no point in that. It needs to be focused, tailored, and specific. When you are focused, tailored, specific, you are actually asking for an action. You're creating a call to action. The call to action itself, buy tickets, attend the event, call us. It's your responsibility to make sure they can do it. You got to put the phone number on the postcard or the email or the piece of marketing you sent out, right? But you also have to make sure there's a person to answer the phone. If you send them a link to PayPal, it's your responsibility to continually check the PayPal link because those things break. If you set up a special GoFundMe or something from your bank, it's your responsibility to set it up, make sure it is where you told them it would be, that it works the way they expect it to work, and that it doesn't fail, because when it fails, they stop the conversion process. This is your responsibility. It's not their responsibility to call you up and say, PayPal isn't working. It's yours. The other aspect of that as well, though, you have to make it easy for them. You have to make sure you can complete the transaction. If you say, click to PayPal, and you literally goes to paypal.com, and not your specific account with the dollar number already dialed in, with a click one button, put their credit card in and go. But it's something that makes them do too much work, they won't do it. Make them jump through a hoop, they will not jump through it. Or if they can't complete the transaction because it's a little bit difficult, they won't do it. It's your responsibility to follow up on the conversion. That includes any legal documents you need to send them, receipts or letters for their taxes, or anything else they need to verify they made a payment, they did their volunteer time, they did the thing that you asked them to. It's your responsibility to make sure they get all of the pieces. Don't assume those things happen because you have a person who you motivated to a conversion. This is the best thing that can happen for you. Do not blow it by not sending them receipts, by sending them some wonky thing that looks sketchy and they think they're going to put their credit card into a black hole. Or at the end of the year, they still got to call you and ask for their letter for their taxes. And the last thing right here, don't blow a motivation to a conversion by failing to say thank you. If PayPal pops up a thank you, that's cool. You need to say thank you from the organization. Send a follow-up email. If it's a large enough donation, send a letter. If it's a really big unexpected donation, someone get on the phone. Make sure you thank people for the transaction, and that also allows you to complete the circle here by following up to make sure you've captured their data, their name, their email address, their mailing address, their phone number, their level of interest, what motivated them to do the thing you motivated them to do. Follow up with them. Ask them questions. Thank you so much for donating. We appreciate it. You understand the value of what we do in the community. What is it we do that you find to be the best? Ask them. Close that circle. Then you take what they tell you. Go back to the CRM we started talking about at the beginning, right? And put it in the CRM with that person. They're motivated by this. Because your next round of marketing will be much more sophisticated because you know what not only they tell you motivated them, they actually put their money, time, effort on the line and you converted them. Nothing better than, I know this worked, they told me so. And it's real simple for people to say, I support what you guys do. It's different than, here's a $500 check, right? That is a whole different level of commitment. Make sure you can thank them and make sure you're capturing that data at all opportunities. And then finally, test it. And I've been telling you about segments all night. We're setting all our campaigns up in different segments. Well, guess what? Now each of those segments you got to cut in two, A and B. It's called A/B testing. Every time you send out communication, every time you do things where you're trying to motivate people into a conversion process, there are things you think you know about them, and there are things you do know. You know where they live. You probably know relatively their age, how many times they've donated or volunteered or done things for you in the past. But there are still other things you assume because they're a millennial, because they are college educated, because they live in a certain part of town, because they donate at a certain level. You make assumptions about them. I assume that you're over 60, you're not really a fan of Facebook. But maybe you are. I also assume if you're 22, you're on Instagram. Maybe you're not. Every campaign needs to have an A/B version where you change the message or the delivery channel or the repetition or the follow-up or other aspects so that when that campaign is complete, you can say, campaign segment 7, the A campaign, which was only 3 emails and 1 phone call, converted at 14%. But campaign B, which was 6 emails and 4 phone calls, converted at 1%. So we said the same thing with less repetition and with different spacing in between on campaign A, and it worked really well. And we over-communicated in campaign B. The next time we do that campaign, we need to move back to what campaign A looks like and just do another variation of that. Every time you create campaigns, every time you do a communication process, every time you put people through I'm going to tell you something, try to motivate you, work you towards conversion, hope that it happens, facilitate it when it does. Every time you do engage this relationship with your donors, with your supporters, with your members, you have opportunities to learn from them what motivates them to do the thing you want them to do. Don't skimp on it and say, we know. A/B testing allows you to give them different variations and see less communication, more communication. Is it a mix of email, phone calls, social media, and a postcard? Is it all social media? Is it all email? If it's all email at the same rate as the direct mail and phone calls, well, that's less labor and definitely less cost and postage, then we stick with the emails. But if all emails is the lowest performing, you got to go the other direction. So all communication needs to be tested. I got 5 minutes here. We're going to make it happen. We talked about unlimited budget earlier, right? Where you all kind of laughed at me because no one has an unlimited budget. I don't have one either. Because you don't have an unlimited budget, you must be selective with your communication. You must be focused, and you must use all of these tools, which we are essentially stealing from our big corporate big brothers when it comes to how to communicate to people, marketing techniques, communication channels, etc. You have to use these things to your advantage because you don't have an unlimited budget. You have to learn from every communication you do, the people who support you or participate with you. And you have to use things like CRMs and internal communication and internal processes to harness every bit of data you can get your hands on. The future is data. The reason Google is so important right now is they have all the data. The reason Apple made Apple Watches isn't so you can turn your music on your wrist. It's so that they could collect your medical data. Apple is getting all up in there. Google is free. Emails from Google are free. Google is free. Yahoo emails are free because they are collecting your data. Data is power. You have the opportunity to collect data on the people that most likely support you, which creates power for you. Everyone is not a target audience. I said it earlier, if you do marketing that appeals to everyone, it'll appeal to no one. When you go back to the office, you start implementing this, and someone goes, but wait, someone's not going to like that. That's fine. We're not targeting everyone. We're targeting segments. So how do you stay inclusive in your approach to expanding your audience while being specific and selective in your communication? I said earlier, you need to be expanding and adding to your audience. But how do we do that when all of our communication is very focused on the people that support us? Now, number one, we start with the people most likely to support us. People who've done it in the past, people who donate, who volunteer, who are members, who show up for our events. The people that are already engaged with us, we already know the most about, and we already have a relationship with them. We start with them. We keep them happy. We continually communicate to them the way they want to be communicated to, the way they respond, and we keep that relationship. So how do we add a new audience to that? We start with who we know, who's our core. 1 degree to the left, 1 degree to the right. Not 180 away from our core. So who you know you already engage, who already participates with you, who already values your arts organization and what you bring to the community, what you do for them as an artist or as a creative individual or for the quality of their life. And whoever they look like, they're a 50-year-old white female who's college educated, who lives in Edmond, which means your next audience segment isn't going to be a 22-year-old college dropout millennial who thinks anarchy is the proper form of government, right? But if it's a 50-year-old white female, a 45-year-old female, or a 60-year-old female, or a 55-year-old male, or if it's someone who lives in Edmond, maybe it's someone who lives in Deer Creek or North Oklahoma City. It's not someone who lives in Ada. See the difference? You have to be continuing to expand that audience, but you can't go crazy and just randomly reach out to audiences that don't make sense based on your core of who's already supporting you. Why? You don't have an unlimited budget. You have to maximize the time, effort, and economics that you have in front of you. So go to what you know, what motivates them, and what they tell you through your feedback, and then start making slight variations off of who they are and what motivates them and what brought them to you to begin with. At the same time, your brand will be pulling people towards you as well. Basic brand communication will eventually, someone will say, oh, man, this dance group looks really interesting and they're doing very different stuff. And I've never really been a big fan of dance, but they caught my eye. Fantastic. It worked, but we put minimal effort towards it. That's one of the ways that we'll start funneling new audiences towards us without getting off of our time, money, and budget on our core audience. Your champions. The reason your champions are so important is they will brag people to your events, to your website, to your social media. They'll send them links. They'll share your emails with them. And that person that they're sharing with or dragging or buying the concert ticket for may be someone you would have never targeted in your marketing. And you might convert them and you might not, but that person came to you for free. So whatever happens there is an advantage to you. New audience comes to you through current champions at zero cost to you. Develop brand champions. People who always show up, who give maximum, who maybe aren't your highest donor, but you know are donating at a level that is a maximum for them. They believe in your organization. Engage them. Don't send them an email. Call them. Take the $2,000 donor to lunch who that's all that she has is $2,000, and she gives it to you, and she shows up at every event, and she brings friends, and she signs people up, and she volunteers when she can. Take her to lunch, thank her personally, send her thank you cards the same way you send the CEO of the corporation that writes you a $50,000 check. Because that brand champion is going to bring new people to you, new audiences, and new potentials at zero cost to you. Which is why it's so important to engage those champions and develop them. And then finally, the quality of the product that you put out. You have a mission, you have events, you have products, you have things you present to the audience. You have an opportunity to live up to the expectations you have created by your marketing, your communications, your messaging, your mission statement. If you live up to it, your core audience will say, that is fantastic. If you fail, you're going to lose the attraction of your core audience, and no amount of communication and absolutely no amount of advertising will ever fix that. Pay attention to your audience, deliver what they want, the way they want it, as much as you can. Let them feel that you are listening to them, that you're taking their feedback and utilizing it, and that you don't want to simply be members of an audience, simply to make a transaction, to simply show up. You want them to become champions of yours and understand the value of your organization and then deliver upon it. Then your organization will be fine. If you set those expectations that you are creating great experiences that can't be held elsewhere, that you are raising the value of life in your town, that you are creating opportunities for people to have creativity and engage in new ways, and then they arrive and it doesn't work. Every time that happens, they trust you less. You have to live up to the expectations you set, which also means if you're a small organization, a starter organization, maybe rural and you have less people to help you, do not tell them that you're Cats on Broadway. You're not Hamilton, and that's fine. Create realistic expectations and live up to them. Okay, and here's the very last piece. I'll run right through it because we just ran out of time. What is the point of all this? I threw a ton of information at you guys. A lot. I hope I didn't hurt anyone's brain. Welcome to 2018. This is how life is now. Efficiency and effectiveness never go out of style. Anytime you create efficiency and effectiveness in your organization, you're doing the right thing. You're never going to fail by doing that. This type of communication, the sophistication level I've been describing today, is what mass marketers do to all of us on a daily basis. And so our audience that we're trying to attract expect it. This is what it is. You can't say, but we're a nonprofit. It's not fair. It is what it is. You have to live up to the expectations of the mass market. The world has so much information right now. We have so many opportunities, so many channels, so many ways to communicate with each other, which means there's a ton of noise. It's a massive amount of noise, and who knows what is right and how to connect and cut through these things. So the reason that focus, tailored, and specific is so important, because attention spans are small, and you are competing, whether you like it or not, with movies and sports and going out to dinner and anything else where someone can use their money instead of making a donation to you or buying a ticket to your event or just buying gas and driving over to your event. You're competing with all these things, whether you like it or not. So you have to be as efficient and effective as possible. There are no rules. There used to be rules about here's how you market nonprofits. Here's how you market a traditional arts organization. Our audience doesn't do that. There's no such thing as that anymore. And I started off by telling you, if someone says, that's how we've always done it, that's a red flag. That's what I mean right here. When someone says, but we've always just started the year with a membership drive, sending postcards, and then we follow up with the number 10, and then we call them 3 weeks later. Great, 1984. Welcome to 2018. You don't have to do it that way anymore. You can still do a membership drive. The actual tactics, actually how you execute it, and how you learn from it is different because we have all these tools and opportunities and we have all this competition we have to get at. Of course, we have to do all this on budget. A budget of what? $50, $100, right? And we have to create ROI, return on investment. We need to see more dollars coming in from our ticket sales, from our event attendance, from our membership drives, from our fundraising than we spent to draw it to us. That's a mathematical equation. We spent $250 on that campaign and we sold $1,000 in tickets. That means an ROI of $750 positive. Simple. Thanks, Don Draper. That's Mad Men style again, too. I like to use the term, instead of ROI, as ROIA. Reality of it all. You need a mathematical equation that tells you you're on the right side of your budget, that you're spending money in a good, smart way. Because you don't have money to burn. You're an arts organization, you're a nonprofit, you don't have an unlimited budget. But there are other indicators, there are other things that tell you you're doing things the right way, that more people are paying attention, that people are engaged, that you're meeting the expectations that you set because people are happy with your products and services, that they continue to come back, they continue to do all of these things, and that your organization is moving in the right direction, even if the math from campaign to campaign to campaign, it's a little tight or a little fuzzy. So try to create positive ROI because I want you to have more money than you spent at the end of the day, for sure. But don't let the math dictate the idea of the reality, and the reality of it is if you're moving your organization in the right direction, you're building relationships, you're cultivating, you're looking long term, you're developing new audiences while taking care of your current audience, you're hitting all of those bases. Then dips and valleys of your ROI, of this campaign failed and this event didn't do as well as we thought, and at the end of the year we were hoping for X and it's a little bit less than that. That math is less important if the reality is that you're building an audience relationship that matters. That's it. It's our time. Yes, dear.
Do you recommend a CRM that's affordable?
Unfortunately, no. That's really the question. There's this huge gambit of them out there. Google, honestly, Google, and whether art CRMs for nonprofits or CRM for arts organizations, you'll find all kinds of articles of listings of top 10s and top 5s, and they'll give you the reasons why they listed them as top or bottom. Find the tools inside the CRM that make most sense to your organization. We have a custom we wrote from the ground up. I have the luxury of code writers. Thank you. Ooh, it got hot up here. It was cold, now it's hot.
Now you got a little more.
Yeah. You gonna go next door? Or back to the hotel, to the 21C?
Yeah, I gotta bring in that stuff in the plastic. Kristen Brewer and I have to bring the plastic in, and then I'm gonna go over there.
Thank
Okay.
you so much. I feel smarter already.
I hope you are.
Right.
Thank you, Susan.